Hi, my name is Russell Lucas. I'm a theatre maker and I interview other theatre makers. So I just finished speaking to Tracy Collins. I met her a couple of years ago and saw her perform one of her wonderful acts called Tina Turner Tea Lady. We talk more about this in the interview, but I wanted to get her onto the channel to talk about creating characters for audience interaction. What type of things does she think are important? We discussed the relationship between the performer and the audience, the character and the audience. How does she choose a character as well is one of our discussions. So do enjoy and click to subscribe. Cool. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Hello, love. I'm good, thank you. It's nice
Sorry,
to see you.
I said that at the wrong time then, didn't I? Just as you were drinking your water. Or is it gin?
This is a nice gin.
Thank you for coming to talk to us today.
It's my pleasure.
We haven't seen each other for years, I think, although we crossed paths in various situations. We haven't seen each other for quite a while.
No,
We wanted to get you on the channel.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk specifically about, I guess, character interaction might be the way I would term it, but maybe we'll come up with a different terminology later. So for people who don't know you, tell us who you are. How do you define yourself? Obviously you're Tracy, but
Well, I would say I'm a character actress and creator of character comedy, um, performing on like cabaret, comedy, festival circuits. I've been performing for about 8 years, so all over the shop, really. I performed in charity shops, offices, stages, you name it. That's how I would define myself. I make my own shows. I have never worked with a producer or PR yet. I make my own shows, basically. Make my own characters, perform them wherever I can, and then write my own full-length shows and put them on as well at the same time.
And those characters, they can kind of exist in, like you say, an office, a park, a pub, theatre, or whatever.
Yeah, they're character comedy acts that when I first created them, I was trying to be a bit strategic, so I really did want to work and get paid for it. It wasn't like I want to just perform. I wanted it to be, I was very much experimenting. If I was going to define myself, I would say I'm an experimenter. And I feel at the beginning of what this is, if it's a career or whatever, it feels like I'm at the very beginning of it.
Right.
But yeah, I wanted to get something that would work on every circuit. So variety, comedy, cabaret, the festival circuit. And then I was booked for office tea runs, and different charity shops. Or it's just to really fully realise it. How far can you go with character comedy? In terms of what can you do with it? And I love doing the bingo events. I just love it.
Okay. Amazing.
Pour it out.
So what? That's your professional term, character actress. What type of work have you made in the past then? Like cabaret, theatre?
Yeah, well, I performed these characters. So my first character was Tina Tea Lady, which I performed for like 8 years. And I like to kind of mix showbiz and the mundane. I really like that, the magic between the fantasy and the reality. So that was always my starting point. So I would try and create something with an essence of a famous persona, but in no way would it be an impersonation. It would just have nods to it, and then it would have a whole new story, which sometimes took like years to find. But there's Tea Lady, and then Audrey Heartburn, and Flo from Leeds. They're my three characters that I work with properly. And
Right.
then in the character shows for Edinburgh, there have been more characters like Sir Milk Jagger and Fanny Leg Up and Ed Cheer Up, all the same vibe, but they haven't crossed over into paid gigs, you know. I guess they were fillers.
Yeah.
Actually, one of Fanny Leg Up, that was good. There's something about Flo from Leeds, Audrey and Tina that have crossed that, you know, into gigs.
And then what type of things have you got coming up, or what in your head, what's coming up? What do you want to develop next?
Well, I've got a new character, Shell Sutra, which I'm really, really excited about because I've always wanted to do something to do with Cher. So she will be my next character. I've got my shell suit has arrived and the wig, and I love the bingo gigs so much. I want to launch her for the bingo gigs. Just this kind of Cher meets Waynetta Slog character where she's down and out, lost to Vegas gigs, feeling like a real loser. And bingo, that's where she feels like a winner. She gets that glow. That's my character that I'm excited about now.
Okay.
And it feels silly. Like when I started the other characters, it's got this silliness about it that I really love. It motivates me to write it.
Yeah.
And then I've written a play, which is an extension of the Flo from Leeds character, because she was really, people really loved her in Edinburgh, and she always got great feedback. And she's the only character I've ever done that isn't linked to a famous persona.
Right.
And I've always wanted to write a play. And I knew the others were like my beginnings of cabaret and comedy, but they're not real. I try and make them real, but she is.
Right.
And so she was like a natural fit
Yeah.
for a play. But that was all cancelled because of COVID. And so that's what I've got coming up next year is I want to relaunch a new character, Shell Sutra, and do my play, which is called Bored Off My Tits.
Excellent.
Both from Leeds. And yeah, I've got written a sitcom with my friend, been working on it for a couple of years, based in a chip shop in the Midlands. I love it. And a short film coming out of Tina and Peter, which is a comedy friend of mine. So yeah, it'll be good.
You're a hybrid. You're curating a different job. You're curating. We have nothing. We don't have a proper name. It's kind of like cabaret interactive theatre. I don't know. It's wonderful. It's
yeah, I hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm blabbering on, but yeah, but basically there are certain characters that I've written that once I've tested them and tried them, they reveal themselves that actually they will work on many platforms and in events. I really love events, putting on events when you have character. I like that, blurring that. It doesn't have to be theatre or cabaret or comedy. It can be like when I started doing bingo, no, they don't, you do your material and it's like, it doesn't really work. It's the stuff, the material happens anyway. Just play bingo, all this magical stuff comes up. And I just thought that was lovely. Like every time you do a bingo gig, you've got new material and you've got new things that the character does. Because you're not just sticking to this script or...
Yes.
You're just going around in circles doing the same thing. I was.
Yeah, I remember seeing you do Tina Turner Tea Lady back in, gosh, at least 6 or 7 years ago. And I'd heard of your act and I was just so blown away by it because you obviously are not Tina Turner, but you were the kind of like a little bit of a signifier towards her.
It's an essence.
Yeah, and there's obviously the the tea lady who was obsessed with Tina Turner underneath it all. And it was just so wonderful that it was so chaotic, so silly, and the audience had a ball, absolute ball. And kind of didn't want it to go off because it was just so funny. And again, it's one of those weird ones you can't quite put your pin in what it was that you saw, but you knew afterwards you were all just going to talk about it and tell your friends. And I think I've seen her at least 3 times since then.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
So talking about characters then, and noting back to what you said a minute ago, was that you do want to get paid. This is your job. You are a professional. Is it obscene to ask you, how do you select a character?
Yeah. How do you select?
Yeah, that will be interactive as well. That will have access to interactivity. Is there a criteria, or just is it?
When you're writing the characters, or once you've created them?
Well, I mean, because you've existed in various settings, and you've existed in bars and bingo and theatres and cabaret halls. Is there a time when you go, right, I want to do this character, and also will it work, and will I also create work from it? I mean, is that a part of your process?
It is and it isn't, because I guess when I was creating all the other characters, I already had Tina was my job, and then with them I didn't think about, will I get a paid gig out of them? I didn't think that at all, because I created all of them when I thought, oh, I'd like to try other characters. Could I do other characters? And so I didn't create them with the hope of getting paid work, but I knew they had to work with Tina. She's opening the show. And then, so every character, I did look at, why does she work? How does it work? And, can I take that playfulness and put it into each character? And they all need it. You have to set their intention. They're not, I remember in your question, you were saying some characters are to be admired, and some are going to come out and be with you. And I really love that, because it's so true. And I think I am aiming for them all to want to give something to the audience and want something in return. And they have to go through something that when they leave, they have changed. It's not the character comes out, delivers a song about tea or love or milk, and then they go. It's not, I don't see what I do as a presentation of a character. I don't see that at all. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in that line that you cross, and then there's this unknown, and you've got to know the character. Your question about how do you choose, the characters that are going to work over that line are the characters I really know.
Right.
It's the only way, because I've got to be able to improvise around the script. And they've got to have balls. And they've got to be really comfortable with silence and with failure. If you go out there and people aren't reacting, that character has got to deal with that. Milk Jagger was to be adored.
Right.
He didn't do a lot in the audience. Don't know why. He kind of had I can't even say it, crotch sock. He kind of stuffed that into his faces a little bit, but other than that, he didn't need anything, I guess.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, I mean, again, knowing what I know of you, you adore interaction.
Yes.
Tell us why.
I love it because I think it's a bit dangerous, but it's more about playing. I love the playfulness. I play with that. If I really commit to the character and what's going on, with Audrey, I'll get her on stage and we'll have a date. And with Tina, they'll come on stage and have tea. And sometimes the little magical moments are when you've got a man, he's 80 years old, and you've given him the tea and you're like, drink the tea. And just before he drinks it, he blows it because it's hot. And there's no tea in there. And that's why I love, that for me sums up why I love the audience interaction, because there's the game. This is an 80-year-old man is playing this game with me, and he gets it. He thinks, he's like, ooh, hang on. And it's things like that, and things that you don't expect. Like I did a cabaret gig, invited at the 100 Watt Club, and a man was on stage, and you're kind of doing the interaction, and he was taking over, and the character was, I mean, I just thought, whoa, there you go, enjoy yourself. So I sat in the audience and left him on stage, and I just waited, and it was not, nobody really wanted that, but it was so exciting. You don't want him to be sitting on stage on his own, but it was brilliant. Because then a lady got out of the audience and went onto the stage and told him to get off. And it's like, things happen like that. And I remember it was so lovely. It's like a one-off.
Wow.
And I like that when people really join in, it's really surprised me. And there's something very real about it. Like in Edinburgh, the Flo from Leeds character is a hairdresser, and she has lost her identity because she's an ex-hairdresser to the stars, and now she's a housewife. She's very bored, and she's desperate to touch people's hair, to smell it. And she goes into the audience and it's like, can I brush your hair? Can I touch your hair? Can I sniff your hair? And she's kind of like, and people are like, they're like, ah! I don't know, it's not that intimate, but it was so, as an experiment, it was so interesting. And they were giving her so much, she's like, oh, I'm home, I feel like myself, it's that identity. But then she gets some scissors and asks, does anyone want a trim? And I was so shocked in Edinburgh, because it was like, I want a trim. And I was thinking, I don't want to chop, I'm scared. I came through the character, I'm thinking, but the character wants the hair. So I'm taking off the bottom of the hair, putting it in my handbag. And I left Edinburgh with like a handbag full of hair. And I wasn't expecting that. And it was great. And I would never, ever force, it's always about permission. Like I will always say, do you mind if I touch your hair? And then you're giving her so much, and it's like, I think they just wanted to make her happy because she was such a sad, sad soul. And that was a really nice moment. These are the moments where I think, I really like the audience bit, when they come on the game with me.
Yes, it's how do they, what do they teach you about it? Yeah. Gosh, I never knew that. That's amazing. I didn't realise that you cut people's hair.
Afterwards, do I need special insurance for this? But it was fun.
So Audrey Heartburn.
Yeah.
Give us the other side of the coin then, because Flo seems to cut people's hair off, but say Audrey Heartburn is obviously based on Audrey Hepburn. What's her quality to be able to interact with an audience? How do you then skewer it another way?
I wanted her to be a very, very tragic version of like the Holly Golightly archetype, but to really break it apart, where she's got her eyes are really, really, they're black from mascara, and she's playing the maracas at the same time, because it's so inauthentic, that time for women, the golden age of Hollywood, and she's so demure, and she's so perfect, and she's so petite, and she's so delicate and slight, but she's a human being, and she can't just be that. So I was like, well, who is she on the other side of that? And I had her have these huge outbursts and melodramatic moments, but her purpose was, she's only known love on screen, so she's come to the real world. And it would always be good if I was like, I'm in Hackney, I'm in London, I'm in Birmingham, or I'm in Leicester. I've travelled here from Hollywood to find love in the real world. And then the line, as she steps off the stage and she goes to find love, she asks the audience to help her. That's her stepping out of the screen. That's her stepping off. I'm not a movie star now. And then she's totally curious. And it's, real life cliches, I guess, like, do you all eat crisps? Like, she doesn't understand. Do you like, Greg's. Take me to Greg's. Like, she's so desperate for something real.
Right.
And she sings Common People. And it's about, she wants real love, not Hollywood love. And she wants to know what it's like to live with real people. And I love that. There's so much to do with it. And then I did bingo at Tiffany's with her, which was great because bingo, I did it in a big, like, old working men's club. And it was fab because he's still got those qualities. She still asks the man, she's like amazed by his like Debenhams shirt, but she's still like, chase me, let me go, touch me, don't you dare touch me. She's still got that old fashioned, those ways.
That's yeah, I need to see her.
Sense. It's hard to describe things like, you know, a character and what you do.
Yeah, I think what I'm understanding from it, just as an outside point of view and almost my director's hat on, is that you seem to be interested in chaos a little bit. I love that. And then it's something I said a couple of years ago just to myself, where I was thinking that actually Cabaret has one foot in performance art sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's something about, and you're kind of proving the point, I think, to me, is that there is a humanity. You're reconnecting us together, and through a very strange and macabre way. And that again is something that just has one foot in performance art occasionally. I think because Cabaret is absurdist, isn't it? It can be.
You step out, and when you step out, like in Edinburgh, not the first year I went, the second year I went with a character show rather than the one character. It was at a venue called Frankenstein's with benches for seats. And I had a sound check and I did the show. I had no idea that I was going to use those benches as like the stage. I didn't realize, but as soon as the show started and the audience were there, I have to go and stand with them. And I don't know if that's because I've always performed in places without stages, really. But I have to go and sit with them, and I love it. I guess it's just that connection, and you're looking for a connection for that character, for something real. Just to get rid of that line. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's about that thing I said to you in my email before we spoke, is that some characters want to be admired and some want to interact. It feels true. So we've got time for one more question. This is the curveball question for you. When do you, or could you tell us when to back off in interaction? Like if somebody's creating a character or thinking about doing similar work, how do you know when to back off?
I think it's just really important that it all comes from a really good, loving place in that character. You are not trying to humiliate anyone because you are humiliating yourself. That's really important. I think the tragedy and the vulnerability in the character and needing something from the audience, for me, gives the audience the power. Because you ask them, will you help me tonight? Or would you like some tea? Or can I touch your hair? You always give them the permission. And you don't know if people have social anxiety. You can really tell when people are not interested. I don't ever push that. That's not the point of it. It's to get a genuine play and game going on. If they don't want to do it, there will be no game. And I think you will know who wants to play it. And if they don't, it should only be an addition. Like, just go back to the stage. Like, you don't have to have that element to this set. It shouldn't be what makes it, I think.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be up for it, so you can't get that out of thin air.
Yeah.
I guess you've got to be willing to go.
Yeah. I wonder if there's something in the flaw of the character which then makes them vulnerable, which then that vulnerability then infects the audience.
Yeah, I think so. Because Fanny Legup isn't vulnerable, this other character, and her audience never worked very well.
Right.
And I think she's just not, you know. I think it's been done and done and done, hasn't it? The whole like, let's now humiliate the audience. And I'm not interested in that. I think when I first started, there's a little bit of that, you know, it's a quick gag and there are lines with all the characters that are cheeky, but I don't handle it very well if I thought I've upset somebody. That's not the point. I think if you're going out there and you're trying to lift people and you're trying to play a game, you know when to stop. But I think when you give up the control, you get the power. That's what I think for me. When I sat down and let that man carry on, he didn't want to carry on. It's when you keep pushing, I think that's when you give up. Just give up. Like you shouldn't need to prove anything. I felt very powerful in that moment. I didn't do anything, you know, I just let him. I don't want to fight for the stage. If I've invited him on the stage, he wanted to do something, but then he didn't really want to do it. He just probably wanted a little. Then I got the power back. It's like, I'm not playing this game.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's really, yeah. So what did you say? The power and the control. What did you say? If you
can use it such a lot in performance. The moment you give up the control is when you gain the power, I think.
Yeah. Do you do any classes at all? Because I want to attend them.
No, I'd love to.
I think you should.
I'd love to. I don't know. I imagine you'd have to. I don't know.
Do it. Actor studio. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with me and the viewers today.
Of course, I've loved it. It's been really interesting. It's made me just miss performing now.
Not long now. Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you, love.
Bye.
Bye.